Recording in progress.
Recording. I mean,
All right.
all right.
Here we are again.
Papa Tom, Grandpa Tom.
Yeah, two grandbabies in 10 days. That's la la heaven.
I gotta say, man, you don't look anywhere near, not even close to, but I know it's real.
You were
So
at my wedding. I looked 12 years old when I got married, didn't I?
yeah, 12 and a half.
12 and a half. Yeah, I've aged considerably. Lori, not so much. It's not fair. It's a
So,
compliment, right? That means I've been taking the weight of the world on my shoulders, sparing her the aging process.
but the whole original point was that I don't think you've aged at all. So like she really hasn't aged. So
She really has not aged.
fine, yeah. But man, awesome. So in Florida for two new grandbabies in 10 days. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, we flew to Florida. Our daughter-in-law was due, she was going to have a C-section on Monday, Monday the 11th. So it would have been last Monday.
Right.
Her water broke. Baby had different plans.
Yep.
And Liam is enormous, 10 pounds.
When I got the text, I'm like, hold on, no, that can't be.
Yeah.
That's what you really meant.
Was it 10 pounds, 11 ounces? I mean, no wonder he was ready to come out. Like it's kind of cramped in here, guys. So So yeah, her water broke and she went like 3 or 4 days before scheduled. So, but we weren't there yet, and we were scheduled to be there to help with caring for their 2-year-old daughter.
Right?
But it actually for me it worked out great because they were home by the time we landed on Sunday, and we got to spend the whole week with Liam and Rhea. So it was a lot of fun. But we were on the plane uh, coming home Friday. This was last Friday,
Right.
and our daughter, her baby, our youngest daughter, who was due, I think she was due maybe the 24th of November.
Okay.
So not even yet. Well, the baby wasn't moving as much as expected, and she got nervous, so she went to the doctor's on Friday, and doctor said, you know what, everything's fine with the baby, but you're here. We're going to induce you. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, and
Yeah.
they were concerned because maybe the baby wasn't as big as they were expecting. And I don't know if they had heard about how big Liam was and they were doing comparisons. I don't know.
I don't know, but
They,
it was like we have security at the door. You see him. You're not going anywhere. You're here.
yeah, so they
Just car
induced
call.
her. Yeah, she delivered on Saturday. So then Tatum was born on Saturday. Tatum is a mere 6 pounds, 8 ounces. More, more
It's
than a
like
4 pound difference between the two.
she's like 67% of just 'cause
Yeah.
yeah, awesome, man. What a week. That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
Quite.
thank you for, through all that, like carving out the time to do this. I'm excited to talk to Doug Dietsche tonight. And I know I sent you
Yeah. I've
uh,
never met Doug.
wow.
I'm looking forward. I read quite a bit, Don, of what he wrote.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about tonight. So
I know that. Yeah, and you have a very similar experience just in different years, but
yeah, I want to ask him
um,
about that.
I know. Yeah, I can't wait to. But one quick kind of real-time experience that I had today that I wanted to
Yeah,
bounce off.
is this your vet trip?
Yes, it is. It's the vet
Okay.
trip. So we have a couple of cats, and one has a ear infection. Had to go get a second round of medicine for him. So this event that happened didn't happen today, but when I was there today, it reminded me of it from
This
like
is my note to remind myself to ask you about
yeah, yeah. Is that an exclamation point? You really meant that. Yeah, thank you.
vet.
All caps and an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, what would you have done? So here's the deal. I'll explain it as
Okay.
objectively as I can. So I pull up. It's a familiar place. We've had cats, three, never more than three, never less than two. Amy remembers all their names. I remember most of their names, but but so
That's
there was a time where I pulled up. to the sidewalk to go in, and coming out the door was this lady in her, I don't know, 30s or 40s, and she was sobbing. She was
Oh,
a mess. She clearly, I think the only thing you could conclude was that
came with a pet and she's leaving without one. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
And it was just me going in and her coming out on this narrow sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and thought, man, I like I said, I knew what she was going through. This person needs a hug.
Yeah.
Okay, already interesting reaction you just had. But as I'm getting closer, I'm having these thoughts going through my head of, okay, if I were home and my wife or two daughters told me that they were going through that and walking out, and as upset as they were, some stranger gave them a hug, I would be like, what was that dude doing? I don't know. So here's pause there.
Yeah.
Like as a I would like to think my feeling was compassion. I would take it a step further as being like, even as a Christian thing to do. And I felt like, man, in that moment, I felt like I should give her a hug. But then I had this wave of Me Too movement and the stuff.
I have funny questions. Can I ask you funny questions?
Please do, because
Yeah.
I still am having a hard time reconciling if I did the right thing by alert. I did nothing. I paused and I'm like, I can't. You
Yeah.
anyway. So yeah.
So, first question, how attractive was she, Don?
Okay. So there will be there. Okay, you're suggesting there's some relevance in that.
Yeah.
Um, she was.
Oh, you're saying it's not too far one way or the other.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Okay.
And she wasn't right.
That's what she.
No.
So
No.
I
No.
guess I probably would have, if I felt compelled, I would have asked, do you need a hug? You look, you look upset. Do you need a hug? That way, it's not, it's
Or,
not confrontational. Now, I'm not in the heat of the moment. You can't be hard on yourself. This is court,
already you cut through a layer of
it's
something.
armchair quarterback here. Yeah.
Yeah, you already cut through something that I would have made sense to do. Like, look, I could be anybody, but man, she was just a hot mess. Like
Yeah.
it was really hard to watch, like how upset she was.
Yeah, but the physical, that's really tough. You could have offered words of encouragement rather than something physical. That's obviously less confrontational too. But she's not going home right now saying, "I can't believe that guy didn't offer consolation to me." Right?
Right.
This is more something you're experiencing than she is.
Maybe the best call, if I would have thought it would have been like a stop, a question, and just like a pat in the back, and I'm like, hey, so sorry, but
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
No, that's a tough one anyway.
Well, hey, listen, when we started this podcast, one of the things we talked about was we knew we were going to have great guests, but it was your idea to have these kind of give and take scenarios that we would
Yeah.
talk about. And there we
That's a
go.
good
I
one.
dropped one in your.
It's a good one.
All right.
All right. We can't bring Doug on yet because I need to show you something
All
first.
right.
Can we do that? We got a minute?
I do.
All right.
Doug's on military time. It is 805 hours. So I told him, yeah.
Um, I compiled a list of everyone that we have interviewed so far
Nice.
and the ones that are on deck, aft being the ones that are behind us, fore being the ones that are in front of us,
All right.
nautical theme, of course. I mean, when you start putting it on paper here on screen,
Good. Yeah.
all these interviews that we've had, Don, it's really stacking up, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And there are others that I've had kind of loose conversations with. Plus, there's your appeal for Beth Dodds, and we have to add to that, by the
Well,
way.
yeah, I got that's the next slide
Oh,
here, right?
sorry. Okay. Oh, you have
Don
to add
and
to this anyone who might have been a teen on our epically stupid.
yes,
Right?
the, the encounter with the police. Yeah, if anybody is watching who was riding the van back with me,
Oh,
I would love
I would love me too.
I would love to hear that would be such a that would be fantastic. We should well, I hope somebody could make that happen. But anyway, we got Doug tonight, and we've got some great ones lined up. Jackie
Yeah,
is coming up next.
yeah.
Doug mentions Ed Shoot, so that's somebody I think he'll be interested to listen to. Tim Sandoval, we stalked him down,
Yep.
found
Thank you,
him.
Bruce O'Byrne, and you. Thank you.
Yeah,
And yep. Beth,
and
I have to return her call here. She called me a bit ago, but she is recovering nicely from some health battles that she's had. Nate Forrester was mentioned by Cliff Thompson, and
yeah,
you actually mentioned him before Cliff Thompson. Like you
yeah,
brought him up several.
I'd like to hear about his life. I think
Yeah,
that's an interesting one.
yeah. John Belland, we have a special lane for him. In addition to just wanting to
Yeah.
get caught up, he's got a music lane, and I've thought of like 20 different music related.
Oh.
What song uh, that you find that other people love, but you find most repetitive? I have two in mind. That anyway.
Okay.
So that's that. I'm just uh,
Yeah.
an
The rock
example
and
of the
roll,
kind of yeah.
the rock and roll crustacean.
Hmm.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk
Stuff
to
here, man. I love seeing it written out. This is like every person that we've already spoken to. I have highlights. You know, there are things
Yeah.
like quotes and stories that will stick with us, and I can't wait to build on
So, I mean, not asking you to name your favorite parent or child, but
that.
which one of those in the bag interviews did you really enjoy? I mean,
Well,
I've enjoyed them all, but I have a couple that have just surprisingly, I think about them a lot.
yeah. Man, the ones we've already done. Um, I really feel like I've enjoyed them all, but I've got interesting comments from people about what they've taken away.
Yeah.
Um,
Like what?
and Steve Punk Vance gave some folks a different view of him. It was a lot of depth to him than yeah. And when Phyllis brought on Doug, I thought he was going to be more than or just kind of a tech. You know, we joke
Yeah.
about the lawyer part, but he added some interesting points to that interview.
Oh yeah. A
Earl's
kid's
involved.
perspective from
Yeah.
Brad
Yep.
working there.
Yeah. It's almost unfair to really like
Fine.
every name I look at like yeah that and that yeah so
I'll be the bad guy. I'm going to pick one out. I really enjoyed talking to Kim Hawks Pasquini.
yeah
I really enjoyed that interview. I'm probably because I didn't know her very well.
right.
Oh, and she said, "I remember you." That made me happy. She remembered me.
She did.
Well,
She literally she said that. Yeah.
I remembered you.
All
Yeah,
right.
I really enjoyed talking with her. I think she had some really great perspectives on camp, and just it was
Yeah,
an
she did.
enjoyable
And those
interview.
prints are holy cow. I look at them. I have them over on my table. Like, but
Oh, I know.
Don, it's yeah
I
okay.
almost hate people with that kind of talent. I hate love them, but yeah,
Well, I got a video to send you from a obscure movie that talks about talent and how people underappreciate it. So anyway, well,
yeah.
there's Doug Dietsche's right. Like all I have to do is hit admit. So should we do it?
I think we're ready.
Here we go. where are we going to start here? This is
There he is.
Doug Dietsche. All right. How you doing, man?
All right. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. All right. Where are you dialing in from here?
Yeah.
I'm in Maine. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. It's beautiful up there. It's going to be cold soon, I'm thinking.
That's why I'm wearing a sweater.
I have a long sleeve on. It's starting to chill down here in Virginia.
Can,
And I think Don was saying before you joined, he hasn't spoken to you in probably 35 years, right?
well, like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Except for the few emails and text messages over the last month, it's 1982, maybe 80. Yeah, I think it was 82.
Oh, we'll get into that. And when you say a few emails, man, Doug, you just I was just numbering the pages of you just
10 pages.
poured all your memories into. I have read that over so many times. I sent it to Tom today for us to use as a baseline. So where to begin, right?
Yeah, and I've been watching all the podcasts, and I got more notes.
Oh,
all right. There's going to be a part.
Bring it on.
I got to say up front that I'm a little nervous because I think you teased me over the last 4 podcasts. I'm like, Doug Dietsche's coming up. Doug Dietsche's coming up. And I'm like, does anybody know who I am? I kind of just
absolutely
left.
They will now.
Are you kidding? Oh, absolutely they do. And yeah, you were there during a prime time, and during Tom has a similar experience with preseason, obviously summers and postseason, which really
I'll get into that some.
that's a different one. But
okay. But can I make one?
Please do.
One complaint, Don, and this is directed at you. Sorry, but you sent me what Doug wrote to you today. Yeah. Did you just send it this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, I was working today, but I had to dig through all that. There was a lot of content there, Doug. I appreciate a lot of details, so many questions. We're not going to get through it all tonight, but we'll give it a shot. And I love just the mind dump that you had of all your thoughts. And I think at one point you wrote, "These are just random thoughts from my yellow pad," right? That was fantastic, and I think I've experienced that in a similar way when Don said he was going to write the book. So I loved the perspective, loved a lot of what you had to say. We're going to dig into some of it for sure, but my complaint is that I wish I'd had more time to read it.
My bad. Yeah, life happens, and
it was a test. I get it. It's
yeah. in terms of these, like Doug just said, these podcasts and the people we have on, they happen in like organic ways. There's no set order of I'm gonna start here and go there. Like I've had one family member on, that's my Uncle Bob, and after that it's just been kind of being led through correspondence. And Doug, what you wrote after you said you saw the book, I'm like, we can't wait to talk to him. But
yeah. So my first season was 1980, and I was 16 years old, and and I, growing up in the East Aurora area, and of course being a New Yorker, you're not supposed to work until you're 16. So then I started looking for a summer job, and through the Orchard Park Wesleyan Church, I knew someone who said, "Hey, there's this camp up in the Adirondacks. If you like, yeah, I'll take anything, because I never heard of it. I'd never, been really away from home at all. So I don't even remember the process, except probably doing the application, and then yeah, come up. You're going to be Woodlands maintenance, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. So
right. So you said Orchard Park Wesleyan Church, which you mentioned was Beth Markell, Pastor Markell's church, but you didn't really know her. Like she wasn't.
No, well, I knew. Okay, so I knew her, but it wasn't through them that I learned about Camp of the Woods. It was through somebody else. So, and of course, at that time, I'm thinking like Beth, like we would have been like 14, 15 years old.
Right.
So I don't even think she worked there yet. So, so it was somebody else. It was an older member who had worked there at one point, and I forget when or how, but
Yeah.
And they suggested it to me, and I'm like, okay, I'll go for it.
Well, if I take you back from there to all the way on the other end of the spectrum, I don't think I've told you this, Doug, but my oldest daughter Anna is right now the phys ed teacher at East Aurora Middle.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
How about that?
is that
Are they,
is that
you know,
where
I
you went to school?
don't, are they still in on Main Street there across from the Roycroft? Because that's where I went to middle
Yeah.
school.
The middle school is across from the Knox Farm, whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
the
Well,
route
they
that
probably
goes.
moved it because when I went to middle school, there was across from the Roycroft.
Okay, they probably, yeah, but still, yeah, that's where she is every day.
Wow.
World, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, so you end up coming to camp and without knowing anything about it, and like taking just the whole thing in terms of preseason, regular season, postseason, and that's where, spoiler alert, I can't wait to show you this video, of us. But yeah, I mean, so you and Tom share like a similar experience of, kind of doing the whole thing, after you get a taste of it.
Yeah. So I got to add one little comment here. So,
Please.
um, so I went there in 1980,
Hmm.
and then what year would that have been? Anyways, I had to go back home for school and high school, and then I went there in 81, and my parents moved during the summer, so I went back to a different place for the fall of 81 school,
Hmm.
and then I went back to camp in 82, and it's just like every season I had to go home to a new home. So it's like camp became my touchstone, like I can't wait to get back up there and be around my people, my friends.
Was your dad military? Is that why you moved?
No, my dad was he was an older, let me put it this way, an older seminary student. He decided to become a pastor.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
and so he spent time in seminary while I was a teenager, and then he had to kept the churches kept changing who
Sure.
had an available church, and so therefore we were moving around because of that. So
Okay.
all in the Western New York area. So it's not like we left the Buffalo area, but it was
Sure.
all that. So
Okay.
yeah.
You felt so at home at camp in those years. And I always, in the book, I mentioned that, when when the summer was over and I saw people like you and Ed Shoot, and Jeff Stevenson and others, and I remember looking at you thinking, whew, did you know this is what it was going to be like? There was going to be so little to do. Like the people that you were used to seeing, like 98% of them are gone, and here you are left with. But Doug, one of the people that you mentioned in your email, and I have to talk to you more about this, but to the extent that I'm leaning kind of into a second book, one of the people that I meant to write more about, and I barely gave him a mention. And when I read how influential he was in your life, it makes me feel like, I dropped the ball on that, but maybe I have a second opportunity to talk about Dickie Tague. Steve Miller loved him, Bob Lang, Ken Reed, but yeah, like so. What did he mean to you, and above and beyond what you
Yeah,
wrote?
Dick, he is gosh, he's something special to me.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
driving too. Like he helped you drive. You got
yeah,
your license with him. You said,
yeah, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, Dickie was special. Like I said, I was a 16-year-old kid, showed up. I didn't know anything. Like I said, I couldn't be in the band. I couldn't sing. I couldn't do anything musical, and so Dickie just put me to work. And but he always had this little sense of humor that would always come out. Like I was telling you guys, every year I went to camp, my parents moved, so I ended up going to 4 different high schools, and so camp was my base. And Dickie, I think it was probably the second, maybe the third year. Dickie's like, "You ever think your parents are just trying to get rid of you?"
Yes. Were they?
No.
Oh, that's so good.
But yeah, he just um he had a way about him. It's so hard to explain. I tried to put it into words, but
Yeah.
just and so kind of going a long way around here. I had probably a very unique experience at camp compared to all the other kids because I didn't have any coworkers. I just had Dickie. So, so I didn't have kids to run around with. I didn't have pranks to pull. It was just like, I had Dickie all day. And like he would just tell me, go here, do that, go there, do that. And then like, he'd come up and check up on me, later on, just make sure I was on the job. But yeah, he always just kind of, looked out for me. And um,
Yeah.
another story, which I didn't write to you, but just thinking about it, I think I got a bee sting or something like that, and I had to take Benadryl.
Mm.
And the mudroom in Woodlands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's all those benches in there,
Yeah.
and I had to lay down because the Benadryl was kicking in, And then like 2 hours later, Dickie comes in and he like nudges me, and he's like, maybe you ought to get to work again. Instead of like yelling at me for falling asleep at the job, he just kind of like, maybe you should get out there again.
Well, did he know that you had Benadryl? And
yeah. Because he knew I had the bee sting. I think he sent me to the nurse.
That's funny. Yeah, there's work to be done.
Yeah. So, oh gosh. So we used to hang out in the basement. I don't know if anybody's been down there. The basement of Woodlands, which was just a dark, like I said, there was maybe one light bulb, maybe two, and it was just dark and stuff. And Dickie had all his stuff down there. And
so I'm trying to think. So there was the mud room, right? Which
Right.
is an ominous sounding place, but it's a place where people took their boots off before they went up the stairs. So
Right.
you're saying the basement.
So the mudroom
Yeah.
connects to what I call the basement.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, if you go out the back end of the mudroom where you'd go up the stairs onto the main floor of Woodlands, but if you turned left and went down the hallway, you end up in what I call Dickie's shop. It was the basement.
Yeah.
So
it was a place I rarely, if I did go through it, I like kind of tunnel vision, get point A to point B. I don't know what else is down here, but it seems kind of spooky.
Yeah, it was dark, and like I said, there was a workbench, and we'd drink our coffee in the morning, and he'd tell me like, "Oh, okay, we gotta mow the lawn down there, or weed whack over there, or room 102 needs a light bulb change or something."
I'm familiar with those things.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about. Was he the predecessor to Rick Murray? Is that the same
Yeah.
position?
Yeah,
Okay.
Dickie was probably near retirement age when I was working for him.
Okay, because I never met him.
Yeah. He I truthfully don't know exactly what happened to him. After I left. Maybe Phyllis Bird would know better, or even your dad, Don.
Yeah, it's funny because Doug, like when I took on this book project with my parents, it was I had so many questions for them, and a lot of names came up, and my dad had kind of compartmentalized a lot of things, a lot of people, given the 2 decades that happened, where he wasn't part of things. And as I started to ask these questions, I could see where I was kind of poking and penetrating his memory about people. And some came back to him really quickly, some came back to him in parts, and Dickie Tague was one. I remember that I would ask him about a couple days. Rick Murray, I believe, would have been his replacement. So there's apples to apples there.
That makes sense. Well, in working postseason, Doug, I obviously was working with Rick, but very familiar with where you're talking about, because I worked with him daily. He was pretty much my supervisor, I guess, when I was off season.
Right.
Working.
So Dickie was my boss during the summer. So all, like I said, all the kids are busy with their dining hall or band practice or something, and it's just me and Dickie. So I didn't have like cohorts in crime like most of the kids at camp did.
Yeah. So when you did though, like when you were, where did you stay? Did you stay in Boys Park or you
Boys Park the first season? I was up
Did you throw rocks?
No, but I don't know
Okay.
which season this was. I forget which season it was, but I watched the Cliff Thompson podcast, and he mentioned about the tree fire thing,
Oh,
which
you
I
wrote
put in my
about that.
document. Yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
same one. Okay, yeah, I read that too. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So I had to go get your dad that night. So
That's a book-worthy story, Don, I think. So
That's
let me
good.
just interrupt here. We're going to get cut off in about 5 minutes. We'll have to log in again, Doug, if that's okay.
Good.
yeah.
But I think for sake of time, because we got a lot to get through here, Don, we should start on and we'll make Mrs. Purdy happy and get to the questions. And so you're familiar with On the Spot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But for this episode, we're calling it the Overachievers Edition because you sent all your responses in advance. Now we're gonna need to unpack some of them, but
Right.
it's great that you've got them all responded here. So Mrs. Purdy, if I know you're watching.
Yeah, and Tom, I will interject this that when Doug wrote me a couple months ago, and I just, oh my gosh, I as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I'm gonna have to read this multiple times and digest it because it was so good, such just bringing back so many memories. But then it came to a point where he said, by the way, I've watched a couple of your podcasts because there were really just a couple at the point at that time, and I saw the questions that you guys were asking. Here are the answers to my questions, and this is the only time I've ever done this. I stopped it. I stopped and I was like, I'm not going any further.
Oh, you haven't read them?
I don't know. No,
Oh.
I intentionally did not. And so I stopped it right there. I wrote them back and I said, hey, I read all of your email up until that point. And then Doug's like, oh, okay. I said, but I really want to talk to you on this podcast. He's like, sounds good, but make sure you skip to the end and see, where my life has gone after that. So
Yeah.
I kind of did this, but the answer to the
Oh.
questions are going to be fresh to me here. So
Yeah, and I didn't realize I'd be on a podcast. I was just answering the questions, just
well, believe me, this was beautiful and
Great.
thorough. Here we go.
I just hope this gets me over any objections Mrs. Purdy might have, because it's all fully documented here. Not only are we going to talk about them, they're in writing on screen.
Oh, wow.
I can't do any better, Mrs. Purdy. I'm trying.
Well, yeah, and Don, you can just send your parents this document I sent you.
Oh,
you
well,
go.
well, I will eventually, and I'm saving actually some of it for
I would save some
book,
of it
but
for your book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's go through this. I mean, you actually look at number 2. You answered all, so we're just gonna jump in here. So you're definitely gonna have to unpack these for us, though, Doug, because don't look at your coffee story is your most repeated story. We need to hear it.
Yeah, so like I said, my first season, I just got assigned my job. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I had no connections to the camp. I get told you're going to go work for this guy and Dickie, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm with this old guy, and so he takes me and he goes, all right, first thing we're going to do is go get some coffee. I'm like, okay, I don't drink coffee, and he's like, oh, you will.
I love it.
Oh man!
So we walk into the Woodlands Kitchen. Again, a unique aspect of Woodlands. Well, we're at least working for Dickie. I was always in the Woodlands Kitchen, and opposed to the other staff members. The normal, I would say normal. I hate to say that word, but I never had to go up the hill. I could just go in the Woodlands Kitchen every day with Dickie, and we'd get our coffee, and it'd be in styrofoam cups. And if you walk out of there, we'd walk out. We'd never went through the building. We always walked outside, and go down the embankment or whatever it was, to go into the mudroom to get to Dickie's office, the basement. And I'd be like this, staring at my cup, and the coffee be going over the place, and Dickie would just be going like this. And he's like, don't look at your coffee. It will spill if you look at it.
Oh, that's brilliant. Love that. He's right.
You're supposed to look past it, like with it in your lower peripheral or something.
And he's like, see, look at my coffee. So also, so I look over at his coffee. It's going like this, but nothing's going over the edge. And I'm like, okay, I'll never look at my coffie again. So, just
That is a great
It seems like
sport.
a metaphor for something so much more meaningful.
It
Like,
probably is.
yeah, yeah, I like
I mean,
it.
it's the equivalent of keep your eye on the ball
Yeah,
with coffee.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it was more of, I would say, yeah, keep your eye off the coffee and
Off
keep
the
the eye
coffee.
on where we were stepping. Because,
Yes.
like I said, it seems like coming out of the Woodlands Kitchen, I guess the loading area, we had to cross some grass and maybe some rocks to get down to the pavement because we would take the shortcut. We wouldn't walk all the way around on the pavement. We would cut across and then walk in front of Woodlands and into the mudroom and into his office, as I call it, the
All right.
basement. So,
All right, the
Get cut
cutoff
off.
point. The cutoff
You
point.
get cut off. I will.
Go on to the same link in 2 minutes. So we'll take a
okay.
Can't wait to a
break.
lot more to do. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Sounds good, guys.
More. Thanks.
Thanks. Right. Good. Yeah.
There's a lot. Okay. I think we're on question number 2. So we got a lot to get through here. This is great stuff.
Yeah.
But this you said resurfaced after reading Don's book.
Mhm.
What prompted? What was there a particular story that brought this out, or just the idea of camp and reading about it brought this story out?
Yeah, I got Don's book and I started flipping through it, before I started sit down reading it. And I got to page 25 and I'm like, and he calls me out by name and he talks about the trampoline story. I almost jumped out of my chair. I forgot all about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so much fun, and I started my mind started going, trying to remember exactly. But I just remember we'd be running down the court, jumping on that trampoline and going up and pretending of course, Michael Jordan didn't exist yet, but
Right.
we were boom.
Why?
That
Yes.
was just so much fun. I forgot all about
Should we
that.
do it? Tom, you haven't seen this yet. Should we do it? I pull.
Oh, is this the time?
Well, he just brought it up. Let's do it. So it is remember, like Super 8. Here's my recollection of how we set it up. We were, Doug, my friends and I, Ron Kukin and Rich and Jay and Chris Edwards, we were playing and you were there and we played basketball together. And my recollection is that one day we were on the far end of the gym and there was like a big door. It didn't look like a door, it looked like a wall. But all of a sudden we looked at it and we're like, wait a minute, that's a latch. This is actually a door. And we opened the door and inside was a mini tramp and some mats. We're like, are you kidding me? So we brought the mini tramp out.
That's an invitation.
Oh, of course.
Invitation.
Yeah. And so you were a few years older than us, but you were, and we did it. And then another time we had this idea that, okay, we had these goggles. They looked like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And at the time, the Lakers were big and they had this thing called the Koopa Loop, Michael Cooper. They would throw them. It was an alley-oop, but so we changed it to have all of our names. It was like the Cuca Loop and the Joya Loop and the Dietsche Loop. And we decided to bring back a poster. But the weirdest thing of all was I had this hideous witch mask that just made me.
I know that mask.
Appearance.
I know that mask.
Oh, here we go. I'm going to share.
Fantastic.
And I took the liberty of putting it to some Benny Hill music. Okay, hold on. Share screen. It's going to move fast, but I'll post it so you can watch it as slowly as you want.